What's going on, guys? SmartHelping.com here. It is getting into the fall, and we're we're getting some chilly weather. But today, I just wanted to do a nice video on preferred returns. This could be in any kind of business. It could be real estate. It could be um, any business, an auto repair shop, whatever, any joint venture deal where you have to pay the investor a preferred return. So in this, the first inputs, I'll just go through all the inputs for you. The first inputs are the percentage of the equity that the investor is going to put in versus the sponsor. Second input is the profit share. So this sometimes is going to could be different than the amount of contributions. Like here, we're saying the investor puts up 90% of the capital, sponsor operator puts up 10, but maybe they have a deal where there's a preferred return, which we'll get into in a second, and then after the preferred return, we want to actually split profits 85-15. Now, this is a lot less complicated and more straightforward than um, the waterfall model with internal rate of return hurdles. This is just simply saying, okay, the investor is going to get X percent of return on their equity each year. And that's not an internal rate of return, preferred return, if that gets confusing. I know it is kind of, but this is just saying the nominal return on equity per year. So if you have $1 million in equity invested, you're going to get um, what is that, 8%, 80,000 back each year going forward as your preferred return, not 80,000, and then the next year you get, what's whatever you get back, and you're changing the equity balance to measure, the time value of money. This is just looking at straight up nominal preferred return. So it's really easy to understand, and a lot of joint ventures will probably be using something like, well, if they're not using the more complex waterfall models with hurdles, this is a different option to do. It just depends on the deal and what the investor is willing to do and what the sponsor is willing to do. So this just presents a different way to split up cash flows. So what we're saying here is the profit share could be different than the equity. So this is pari passu if it's just the cash you get back is the cash you put in, or the rate of profit return you get back is what based on what you put in. So that's all this is doing, or that's not what this is doing. That's what you could do if you just set this equal to this. But if you want to, after the preferred return, the investor is willing to give up a little bit, then that might adjust. Anyway, I just put in two inputs for that instead of just having it based on equity only, because I know some deals have that change. So this is going to be the cash flow that's split between the investor and sponsor after the preferred return. Here you enter the preferred return. And I did a little interesting thing here, which I thought was, I don't know if this is done often, but I thought it was pretty neat to put in here. It's if there's a shortfall. So let's say year one, the business isn't making money, the venture's not making money. You've actually put money in. Um, well, let's say it is making money, but not at its full potential. So you and the sponsor put in more money, but you have some profits. You made 55,000. So in this case, the investors contributed now a total of 1.57 million. So their preferred return of 8% is 126,000. Well, that is short. Um, there's only 55,000 to distribute, but the preferred return is 126,000. So what do you do in this case? Well, I have put in an option here where you can either put yes or no to add that shortfall to the investor's equity amount. So you'll essentially say, well, investor, we can't pay you 8% of your equity. We can only pay you 55,000 this year, but we'll take the other 71,000 and add it as equity for the next year. And so you can see that's why the equity is going up here more than just 18,000. It's going up by 71,000 plus 18,000 to get from 1,575,000 to 1,664,000. Um, so I thought that was interesting. Now you can toggle this if you just want to say, well, the preferred return is 8%. It's either 8% or whatever cash is available. Then you just hit no here. And you can see that will adjust. The equity will not go up past what the actual cash that was contributed is. And then they'll get either the 55,000 or the preferred return, whichever is, well, if the preferred return is greater than this, then they just get the total amount that's available from the business. So we have, um, after we figure out the cash or the preferred return, if there's any shortfall here, then we get the final amount that's actually available to split between the sponsor and an investor after the preferred return. So there's, let's say in year three, we've got $400,000 of profits to share. We'll give the investor their 127,000 off the bat. There's now 272,000 left. We're going to split that 272, 85% to investors, 15 to the sponsor. So you can see here that's where that 40,000 comes in. 40,000 of the 272, or 40,000 is 15% of 272. And then the investor is actually going to have their preferred return of 8% plus the 85% share of what's available to split. So this 359 you can see here is, if you want to do the math, it's 127,000, and then you're going to add 272 times 85, and if you add those together, you get 359,116, which is the number here. So that's the math that's going on. And everything's dynamic, like you could change whatever the contributions and distributions are. I just made them as a hard input because this is more focused on how you're splitting cash, not how the business is operating. You could plug this into any model you have, and as long as you can get down to the contributions and distributions, and what amounts of the contributions were to the investor and sponsor, then all this flows nicely. I added a couple other things. We've got the running balance. This is kind of when you break even. Um, as the investor is saying, based on all of this stuff, you're breaking even in year 7, and sponsor as well. I've also put in an internal rate of return here and here, and if you see, like, we change first of all, if we add this to the difference of the shortfall to the investor equity, the investor is going to get a higher internal rate of return. So you can see this 27 and 30 will change. Well, not much, 27.1 and 30.2. Yeah, it just went down a couple points. If we raise the pref return, this will probably change things a bit more. So let's say we put it at 10% pref. 27. Actually, still didn't change much. Um, let's say if we put the profit share to 90-10 pari passu. Yeah, that did it. So the pref return and the shortfall and stuff, that doesn't have, well, it depends on how much the shortfall is, I guess. But in this version, the main driver here is profit share. But it all depends on every single other input. I'll just keep this at 90-10 for the default. Finally, well, there's a check at the bottom here that just checks to make sure the cash you've split, put out, and accounted for going out and in matches what's up here, so the total of this is 11,160,000. That should always equal a total of the cash flow for an investor and sponsor because, well, there's no other sources of cash related to this. So, and it does because these all equal 0. So there's your check. I added 2 visuals. One is a cash flow for sponsor and investor per year, and then the other is the running cash position for the sponsor and investor. And this is not stacked. This is saying, the investor gets up to 10 million, sponsors at whatever that is. It's like 900,000, I think. 959. Okay, well, that's all I got for you. This is a simple one, but I know the logic here is tough, and you don't always know what to do. So I think it was important to show like the general basic knowledge of a preferred return and some different little things I added, like the shortfall addition to equity. Now there could be a lot more complexity that goes into a preferred return, but I try to just show the most simple and easy to understand case that still, you're seeing the logic here. All right. If you do want the template, just go to the link in the description box below. I'll have it at smarthelping.com. I'm also going to post it on Eloquent and eFinancial Models. All right. See you on the next one.